Good morning and welcome to the Johnson & Wales University Visiting Industry Professional presentation. It is a pleasure to have you join us. Before the presentation begins, we are pleased to provide some helpful Zoom tips. Please turn off all applications other than Zoom to avoid any service disruptions or distractions. Following the presentation, we are pleased to present audience questions to the visiting industry professional. We ask audience members to submit questions via the Q&A feature located within your Zoom toolbar. Please feel free to start submitting questions during the presentation. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. It is now my pleasure to introduce our provost, Dr. Billy Auclair.
Good morning, everyone. I am Billy Auclair, Provost of Johnson & Wales University. It is my honor to welcome you to our second annual Visiting Industry Professional Speaker Program. The academic community has been planning this program for nearly a year, and despite this year's unwelcome guest of COVID-19, the program has remained on schedule. A slight adjustment's been made for the Providence campus, which, like our other campuses, has gone virtual for today's event, rather than attending in person at Schneider Auditorium. Today, we are indeed one JWU. I want to thank our students, faculty, and staff who are joining us from all our campuses, Providence, North Miami, Denver, and Charlotte, and for many other places of the nation and around the globe. Never before in our university's 106-year history have we experienced such rapid transitions as we have in 2020. It's wonderful to be together today, albeit virtually. In the spirit of #InThisTogether, JWU, I commend all of you for meeting these challenges the Wildcat way. The 4 tenets that characterize what it means to be a Wildcat and have certainly been put to the test this year: pride, courage, character, and community. I say the Wildcat way wins. Kudos to everyone for such grit. The Visiting Industry Professional Speaker Series, or VIP, is now in its second year. Last year, we welcomed Cindy Bigelow, the 3rd-generation president and CEO of family-owned Bigelow Tea, as our inaugural speaker. The VIP series evolved from discussions among the university's academic leadership as we were determining how to enhance our student-centered programming to reach broader audiences. These conversations were part of the thoughtful reflection that occurred in the development of our 5-year strategic plan, Focus 2022. It was during this process of formulating this bold and ambitious strategic plan that the university embraced the development of an interdisciplinary curriculum that will allow students to explore and navigate careers in a variety of industries and professions. To support this, the VIP series was designed to bring industry professionals to our campus who share our mission, our quest for innovation, and our entrepreneurial spirit. The VIP series allows JWU students, faculty, alumni, and staff from across all disciplines and departments to explore the many facets of industry relevant to our academic programs. We do this by learning about the experiences and receiving advice from one well-versed, highly accomplished professional. To introduce our VIP speaker today, I would like to invite to the screen Sherry Young, Dean of Experiential Education and Career Services. Sherry?
Thank you, Provost Auclair, and thanks to all of you who have joined us today. I have gotten to know our speaker very well since she accepted the nomination from our College of Arts and Sciences last February, and I can tell you, you're in for a real treat. Our guest today is Kamilah A'Vant, the Director of Diversity Programs at Color, an affiliate of Bridge Tower Media. Color is based in Boston and organizes premier events and an online publication called Color Magazine, which both focus on empowering diverse professionals. Color has achieved a strong reputation for its signature events, addressing diversity and inclusion, or D&I topics, and recognizing the achievements of thought leaders. Thought leaders such as Walter Bond, a former professional basketball player for the Utah Jazz and Dallas Mavs, and Janice McLean, Deloish, the founder of the BlackShoppingNetworks.com. As you listen to Kamilah today, I encourage you, take some notes. Use this experience to explore what stands out to you. Talk to each other about D&I issues. I'm sure today's VIP would agree that two-way communication is an essential part of understanding these barriers people of color face in our country, even today. A longtime advocate for diversity in the communications industry and beyond, Kamilah has had a successful career in broadcast television, where she's managed TV stations for Lynn Media and Media General. If you haven't checked out Kamilah's LinkedIn profile yet, you really should. Here are some highlights. Kamilah is the president of the New England chapter for the National Association for Multi-Ethnicity in Communications, a member of the Southern New England Association of Black Journalists, an advisory board member for Harvard University's Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Partnership. And she's an adjunct faculty member at Bay Path University, where she teaches courses embracing women as empowered learners and leaders. And that's not all. Kamilah is a proud board member for the Children's Friend, Rhode Island's nonprofit serving the most vulnerable children and their families for over 184 years. It is her story, combined with our nation's current transformation, division, and work towards social justice, that makes today's VIP presentation so relevant and timely. Kamilah, this is the part of the program where you would have heard thunderous applause from our 500-seat auditorium in Providence. Let me assure you that from Rhode Island to North Miami, Denver, and Charlotte, as well as locations around the country and across the globe, the JWU spirit is here with us today. JWU, please join me in welcoming Kamilah A'Vant, our 2020 Visiting Industry Professional. Kamilah, welcome.
Wow, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Thank you, Sherry, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you to the provost, and thank you to everyone at JWU, feeling that JWU love and spirit. So it's a pleasure to be on your virtual stage, as we like to say on Color. When we're doing these virtual events, it's a virtual stage. So I'm very, very thankful to be here.
Thank you, Kamilah. So let's go ahead and get started. Can you begin by telling us more about the organization you work for, and what do you do there?
Yeah, well, Color is a national diversity inclusion online and event-based publication. As you mentioned, we celebrate America's diverse workforce, and we work to empower communities. Color offers our unique signature events. We offer a Women of Color Leadership and Empowerment Conference. We offer a Men of Color Leadership Conference. And we also focus on issues that recognize and champion the achievements of diverse leaders. We work on sharing tools for enrichment and fostering long-lasting partnerships. My role is the Director of Diversity Programs, and I create and implement live and digital programming for Color's leadership, learning, and development events. And along with the Color team, we set the editorial direction of the magazine. So we determine the articles, the columns, the special features, and all of the content that we put out in front of our audience. And we work to make sure that it's engaging and relevant to our audience, especially during this time that we're in 2020.
Yeah, I can imagine that's presented its own challenges, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time.
But Kamilah, people describe you as a diversity champion. What does that mean to you, and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. Interestingly, the word champion is a Latin concept of a word called campionium, and the word means a gladiator or a fighter.
Mm.
So many of us in D&I consider ourselves gladiators or fighters, especially right now as we
Yeah.
work to on our quest to advocate for equality. But I think, to me, a diversity champion really taps into what I think we all have as superpowers. It could be that you have a strength to bring people together. It could be that you're skilled at negotiating, or just a number of characteristics or skills that each one of us have. So for me, using those superpowers that I have in the name of diversity is what I do. I strive to take my talents or my superpowers and use them to just create a better future for those who may not meet the standards of what society dictates, or may feel excluded from having opportunities that others are afforded.
Thank you. I think that point probably resonates with our audience, and really thinking about what each and every one of us can do when we're talking about diversity and inclusion topics. So I'm sure that the audience is connecting with this, and so with that in mind, let's take a look for a second. Considering your long background in media communications, many of the questions that we're going to go through today will definitely focus on that industry. But given that our audience is from such a wide span of majors and even campuses, I know that there's something in each one of your messages that you'll share that will resonate with our students, no matter what they're interested in. With that in mind, as a woman leader of color in the fast-paced, male-dominated media communications industry, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Some of the biggest challenges I faced and continue to face has been in areas of being underpaid and undervalued from my work, I think, compared to some of the male counterparts. But I think that's just primarily a function of being a woman in many industries where we're the minority, right? I don't think being in media or communications differs if you're in technology, or if you're in other areas where, accounting and finance, where it's just male dominated. Those are challenges that many women face in general. But I think overcoming the hurdle requires not only advocating for yourself. Yes, we should ask for a raise if we deserve it, but also building strong allies and who can champion your work and speak on your behalf. I think that's very important. But as a woman of color, I think many of the biggest challenges I've had is always having to show I have the skills and I deserve to be where I am. And I think this is more apparent as I continue to navigate on my journey and find myself in more senior roles. And I don't think it's just something I can overcome, sadly, because I'm looked at being an African-American first, regardless of my education of credentials. So I learned by focusing on the things that I can control. There's some things I can't, but I know that I can control things by using my voice when necessary to challenge things that are just wrong. Students all often say, speak truth to power. You hear that statement a lot.
Right.
So there's some times when you have to use your voice, but there's also some times when you understand that there's a time to walk away and to just move on to other opportunities and into an environment where you can thrive. So I think learning to be able to see that, when is it time to, use your voice, and when is it time to maybe reevaluate and pivot a little.
Yeah, you made a really good point about, maybe it's not overcoming them, but rather using those opportunities to emphasize and kind of focus on the skills that you do have, like using your voice, or contemplating whether it's time to shift gears and take a different path or use a different strategies. could you share just a little bit about, when does that voice come into your mind? Like, when do you know, and what does that look like when you're like, you know what, I've got to pivot here?
Hmm. I think it probably comes with experience. And what I always remind, younger women who I really try to network and kind of share my experiences, learn to trust your gut too, because sometimes, you get that feeling, but you say, oh, well, I'm going to ignore it, or oh, I'm just going to stay. And then, fast forward a month, 6 months, a year from now, you always say, if I only should have listened, so
Right.
I think being able to kind of trust your gut is key, because we all have that. I don't know if we want to say instinct or women's instinct or intuition, or you just have to learn to know when to trust what your instincts is telling you.
Yeah.
I think that's really
Great advice. Thank you. Speaking of advice, what advice do you have for students on how to differentiate themselves? And we hear of leading with authenticities. What does that mean? What does leading with authenticity actually mean?
Mm. I already mentioned about, the superpowers or talents that I believe we
Yeah.
all have. But, and as you read, a little bit about my bio, I always go back to being a mom first. And
Yes.
I have two sons, two college-age sons, 19 and 21. They're not wildcats, but they're here locally. So, I have to say hello to our sister school, URI down there.
Right.
But most important, I give my advice to my college sons. And first is just to know who you are and connect to your values. Um, and then I always tell them, try to find someone you can observe or connect with. That may not be your parents, because, we all kind of gravitate towards certain people that we think are good leaders. So someone you believe is genuine and that you think is an authentic leader. And if you see there's traits or something that you really admire about that person, how can you bring that trait into your own personal leadership style? And I think a lot of young people, as they are, moving through their journey at Johnson and Wales or any university, you're really looking to, through those formative years, show people, who am I? What do I bring to the table? And start to formulate what your leadership style is. And I think most importantly, I would give advice to students to just challenge yourself to grow. Great leaders learn and adapt and evolve. And this is a time of change. And it's okay to kind of, see yourself changing your perspectives and having a wider view. That's part of being authentic and carving out your voice. So,
Thank you for that. That was really interesting. And it reminded me, as you were speaking, of the value of finding mentors, even this early through college years, find a mentor that you look up to, that you can emulate and learn from and bounce ideas off of. And, I think the value of mentorship can never be overstated.
absolutely.
Next, we're going to talk about, well, we have a lot of young women in the audience today. And what would you, as a woman leader of color, share with the young women in our audience who are entering the media communications field, or for that matter, any field?
Well, actually, Shari, you just said it. I would definitely tell them to find a mentor. And there are so many ways to do that. There's formalized mentorship programs. There's more informal ways. Or if there's someone that you just admire, just ask them. Most times, if you ask someone, one, it's an honor because they feel like,
Yeah.
wow, you really value me that much that you,
Right.
and most of the time, if they're not really, really busy, they'll be interested in learning more and talking to you, even if it's connecting over coffee. Some of them will offer to review your resume or share some of their personal journey or insight. So I think that would be like the main advice I would tell any young woman entering any field, including media, but is to find a mentor and also to start building a network as soon as you can. You mentioned LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and that's something that as an adjunct in some of the courses I've taught is, we teach students how to have a good LinkedIn profile. So you're building that while you're in college, and then soon as you're ready to start looking for jobs, you put that on your resume. You start building that network within LinkedIn because now we can't really be in person, so it's even more valuable.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
LinkedIn is a great way also to, I would suggest for women in the communication space or anyone looking to get themselves in any kind of field, and just start also joining professional organizations. Those lead up to many mentorship opportunities, and NAMIC is one of those organizations that has a mentorship programs as well. So.
Yeah, needless to say, that is certainly great advice for the young men in our audience today. As I said in the beginning, there's something for everybody here. So, considering the value of mentorship, LinkedIn is a phenomenal tool, as both Kamilah and I have pointed out. It's a great resource for our students in connecting with industry professionals, and the sweet spot is connecting with industry professionals who are also alum of our university. So, that's definitely a takeaway that I hope that our students seize upon and really begin that outreach to the industry that they want to be in and get some of that great mentorship that's out there. So let's switch gears a little bit, and I'm hoping that you can talk to us about some of the biggest barriers that you see people in marginalized groups facing when they're gaining access to positions in the MediaCom industry, or again, as I keep saying, any industry. And what are the best practices you would suggest to our students today to affect change?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think some of the biggest barriers are barriers of entry is in areas of education, training, and opportunity. And it's not always necessary to have a college degree. However, I'm a strong advocate of it. But there are other formalized trainings as well, like technical training and hands-on job experience. But I think the key thing here is opportunity. Many marginalized groups are not in the position to get access to those opportunities. There's areas of a lot of students have of internships and co-ops and apprenticeships and job shadowing. And those offer gateways to get connections to help lead you to roles in communications and media or in any industry as well. And one thing I always remind people that, especially in communications and media, it's still a business based on who can open doors for you. And it goes back to that network, right? If you make a connection with someone and all of a sudden, maybe that person is a mid-level or a senior level person, they said, hey, by the way, our company has some internship opportunities. Let me connect you with someone who's in charge of that program.
Right.
So again, if you don't have that gateway or that connection into getting that opportunity, I think that's been the biggest hurdle that some marginalized groups face. And to go on your second question about what best practices I would suggest to students to make a change, once you start to get yourself in a position of, maybe you're moving to your senior year in at JWU, or you're starting a new job, or I'm connecting with alumni. I always say it's never too soon to turn around and engage your community. There's organizations like the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA and schools and nonprofit organizations that are looking for young volunteers to work with younger students and be mentors. And it's, again, just like students need mentors, and everyone, I think, in wherever they are in their career should have mentor. younger people are looking for mentors too. And this is a great opportunity for college students to really engage their community. And it's a great way to build leadership skills as well.
Yeah, that is certainly, again, good advice for a broad spectrum of our students and, any college graduate, especially in today's challenging job market, breaking down barriers, building your network, building your pipeline of mentors, being proactive, in fact,
Yeah.
of getting yourself in positions where you get to talk to industry, and whether that's virtually or in person, really practicing how are you going to position yourself so that you stand out from your peers, and to really focus in on this concept of marginalized groups, this issue. What would you say, or what would your message be to students about how do they break down those barriers and stand up for what they believe in while still keeping their professional and their personal brands in mind? You talked to me a lot in prep for today's session about that balance between standing up, standing your ground, but also keeping in mind that longer term personal and professional brand that you're building for yourself.
Yeah, this is something that, again, mom conversations that I have. And I often say, I really think this is one of the most powerful generations that I've seen in my lifetime. And maybe not as, I don't think that I can recall one since maybe the civil rights era, my mother's generation. But this is a powerful, globally conscious, open-hearted group of young people that are seeking equality, justice. They're challenging the status quo. They really know their voice, and they're advocates of change, and that's powerful. And it's admirable. And I think, again, it goes back to, listening to your voice, that gut that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Because, sometimes, when you're passionate in the thick of things, your voice is saying like, I better kind of think about this before, pause before I react. So I think it's a fine line to walk. I think using that voice and keeping your personal brand also in the back of your mind. And I always, again, remind my sons that social media is powerful. It's also permanent.
Right.
So,
Right.
and remind them that many colleges and universities, if you want to go to graduate school, or employers, they're going to look at your social media accounts to gauge your character. I know shortly after George Floyd's murder, my oldest son, who's a senior now, he was just so passionate and just full of all these ranges of emotions. And as a parent, I told him, I said, I understand, this is an enormous issue. And I said, but you have to be mindful that your generation can't protest every day. Change takes a multi-pronged approach. It includes voting, it includes taking all that passion, that anger, that outrage, all those things that you're feeling, and channel it in other ways. Take that action, take that energy to take action, get involved in organizations, politics. If you don't think anything out there that works, agrees with your views, create your own organization, or, a club, or just channel that in a way that, it can really be proactive and make a difference. And he actually just did that. He collaborated with a couple of college students and one of his university professors, and they created an organization called the Diversity Think Tank.
Wow.
Down at URI, and they're working to train students to become racial equity and diversity policy experts and change agents. So, actually one time I thought that he listened to me, because your kids don't, But, I really think, it's a fine line, but you can do it in a way that makes a change, but also, is considerate of, okay, what this too will change, right? We all know that this is temporary. So be mindful, okay, what is going to happen a month from now, a year from now when I graduate, when I start school? So just, trying to find that balance, which is, it's hard, but, I think it can be done. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point. It certainly is an emotional conversation, and really curbing the, the emotions and funneling them through something that you can feel strong pride in, and have and it will have sustainability. Connecting that to how you present yourself, and the opening doors and breaking down barriers as you progress towards graduation and into a full-time position after college. I think that, that's a really powerful message that you're giving us, Kamilah, because it is so hard to balance those two things.
Even as adults and, seasoned adults, we struggle with it. So for students, it's hard. Yeah.
Absolutely. Could you kind of think back in your youth or your, emerging industry professional years, and, are there any examples that come to mind where you might have had to do just that, and you had something that was compelling you, you wanted to stand up? You gave the example of your son. Do you have any examples of when you were faced with that balance?
I think we all work within areas of our comfort zone and where our passions are. Um, I'm an introvert by nature, actually. So, my sons, I learn a lot from them. I would never be as outspoken and as vocal as they are. But I think if I look back, I think I've always tried to influence from within, I would say. And instead of advocating from outside. So I would find areas where I feel like I could make the most difference. So by working when I was in television for a season, it was a wonderful time. I found it was important for me to try to network and connect with younger women who wanted to be in the industry. How do I start? What do I do? And kind of, I don't want to say be a big sister, but kind of mentor them in a way. So I think, again, we all have to find where our strengths are. So maybe it's not being on the outside with a megaphone. It might be internally and in your organization being a change agent where you are. How can I bring in more women into the company? How can I bring in more diversity within the company? Is there something that I can identify that can make a change? Like, do I see some issues with promotions or recruiting? So I think we all can address some of these issues, but from our own areas of comfort and expertise.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think you mentioned earlier the value of joining professional organizations in a student's exploration of building that network. And so I wanted to talk with you more about the organization for which you are the New England chapter president. That's NAMIC. It stands for the National Association for Multi-Ethnicity and Communications. And can you tell our students more about that organization and what value it brings, and how, what you're doing, what's your role in that professional community?
Sure, yeah, it's such a long name, so just NAMIC. Yes, NAMIC has been around for a while. It was founded in 1980. It's a media trade nonprofit organization. And its mission is to educate, advocate, and empower for multi-ethnic diversity in the communications industry. So when we say communications, that's just a huge umbrella.
Yeah.
We have people who are in media, who are entertainment, who are in academia, who are in now digital, because digital is so prevalent
Yeah.
in the way we communicate now. So its goal is to help its members, and nationally we have about 5,000 members. There's 16 chapters in the United States. And it really works to cultivate individual careers and committed to creating a pipeline of underrepresented groups to get in some of the media and communication careers. Our members are, again, national. They are some of the major broadcast powerhouses. They're with Viacom, they're with ESPN, they're with BET, they're with Disney and Discovery. And then they're
Right.
also, journalists. They're also creatives that might be with CAA and the casting side. They're in film, they're independent filmmakers, they're writers.
Wow.
So it's very diverse. And what I do as the chapter president here in New England, I think this is my third term, trying to really bring in more members and leaders to the group to really shift this into a younger generation as well. So what I do is actually, also, member engagement and being an ambassador and to try to tell about what this organization can offer, especially young students and young professionals. It's, again, a gateway to a network.
Yeah.
We have mentorship programs. Once you connect, once you're a NAMIC member and there's student memberships, you have access to all 5,000 of the members. So
Right.
if you need a mentor, or if you want, hey, I really would like to get a job at Viacom, I want to move to New York City. Well, who can I reach out to who's in New York City, who works at Viacom? And we're like a family. I talk to my sister chapter presidents at Comcast in Atlanta with the Weather Channel, CNN. And it's just like, we're a family. And because our mission is so clear, if someone joins and that they want to relocate, they want to find a new job opportunity, we have a job board, we have all these things. That's what that network is for. Your network is only as good as you use it. So that's one of the, I'm a big NAMIC advocate, and find out more, www.namic.com.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I think I think that you'll find that there are many students listening to us today that are going to want to know more about NAMIC and how to get involved. And last year, when you and I first connected through Professor Westgate, we worked to get a couple of JWU students student memberships from NAMIC, and there were all kinds of great plans ahead. And of course, we all know how quickly that became a challenge. And I know your commitment and our commitment is to keep JWU students involved with your organization, and it's really important message. So we'll be happy to share information with our students on how they can get involved after today. I'm going to switch back to a bit more serious topic in focusing on the power of the NAMIC network. And could you share with us how the organization has looked at and how it has been impacted by the Black Lives Matters movement?
I think the Black Lives Matter movement has impacted most, if not all, businesses and organizations in some way, not just NAMIC. I think NAMIC is no different. The organization's mission is aligned with advocating for diversity and the senseless tragedy of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor and Trayvon Martin and so many other names that I'm just exhausted to keep saying. It just reinforces the need for equity in our communities and our workplaces. The movement really, I want to say, reaffirms NAMIC's mission and further strengthens our resolve and determination to keep pressing forward. We continue to work and to develop and nurture diverse leaders who can change our world and make it a better place for all citizens. We have done a lot in the 40 years that NAMIC's been around, but I think it's more important now than ever that we really partner and use our voice to really address the issues that we're facing, and bring together those voices to make a difference.
Fantastic. Yeah, I spent some time, of course, in preparing to get to know NAMIC's mission and going through the website and the Facebook page, and the numerous examples of topics related to what really is important now, and that connection to voices in, voices of this movement, and how NAMIC really tackles it, but also keeps in mind that sustainable longer term path to making change and keeping it alive. So thank you so much for that deeper look at that organization. I do believe it's got a lot of value to our students today. And I do want to give our students a heads up that we're about to wrap up the interview portion, and after the next question, we will move to the audience, and Kamilah has agreed to answer questions from our students. So if you haven't put your question in yet, you can do that by using the Zoom Q&A feature. So before we do that, Kamilah, I'm going to lighten it up a bit, and I'd like to end our interview with a warm question. And could you tell us in a few words who inspires you, Kamilah? Either somebody living or legend, and why?
It's a light question, but it's also a hard question, Sherry.
It is.
Because I'm inspired by so many people. Those of my ancestors that have forged the path for me to just be where I am today. And if I had to answer in the present, at this moment, who inspires me? It's not only all these young adults right now that I spoke of earlier, but most important, it's just my two sons. When I listen to the way they view their world, their experiences and thoughts, and just what they say about this country and what makes it a more perfect union, their thoughts around that, it just gives me hope and inspiration. I think, where we always say like a change is gonna come, and sometimes you kind of feel like what is going on, but there's always there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always, a new rebirth. And I think you have to feel the pains a little bit, and all of us mothers know what that's like.
Yes, we do.
But at the end of the day, without all of these pains, we wouldn't get to see a brighter future. So if I have to say, my inspiration right now is looking at these two young men who, have blossomed, and just their views and their global perspective and their thoughtfulness, and it gives me hope. So.
Yeah, I totally resonate on that point. I know my son, who is a JWU student, is watching today, and I'm really excited for him to get to hear your stories, and even the stories you shared about the conversations you're having with your sons. I think this really really supports the whole purpose of our program today. So thank you for that. We are going to start with our student questions. So the first one on the board is, what is the best advice you can give someone in the industry? And if you, what is something you wish you knew back then about the industry that you know now?
Well, I wish, they say hindsight is 20/20, right? I think I
Yes,
wish I would have
exactly.
known um, how hard it would be. I think, sometimes we go in with all these aspirations and just think if I only just put my head down, do a great job, people will recognize what I do. And sometimes that's not the case. And again, it goes back to what I say of finding your voice, because sometimes
Mm,
you can do great work
mm,
and you can, and oh, someone will see my talent. I just keep working hard. Someone will see, how I'm working extra hours or how much, I've committed to the project. And then you don't get that person noticing and then how that makes you feel. So I
mm,
think looking back, I would say, if I knew now, I probably would have started advocating for myself a little sooner,
mm,
you
mm.
know?
Good point. Excellent. So the next question looks to be from a JWU staff member or faculty, and it's quite interesting. The question is, JWU employees are student-centered. It's something that really is a pillar of our community here. We take a lot of pride in being student-centered. So someone is asking if you can give faculty and staff two very tangible ways in which we can genuinely support our minority students in particular.
I think two tangible ways. One would be make sure that they feel like they're in an environment where they belong and that they're comfortable. I think a lot of times students, especially if there's few minorities in a class, feel like they tend to kind of take a step back and be reserved. So I'm all about that feeling of belonging and that whole
Mm,
feeling of community, right? So they feel like they're in an environment where they can thrive, they can learn, and they also feel like they can be, again, their authentic self.
yeah.
Um, and the other one is to also expose the entire class to um, you know things that may be out a little bit, I don't want to say outside the curriculum, but sometimes the outside affects the inside, right?
Mm,
Especially, everything we've been going through with COVID and
right.
social unrest. Sometimes if you don't address those, it become the elephant in the room. Your students
Right.
are distracted, they're detached, they might have their own internal issues. And sometimes you have to address those things.
Great. That's some great advice. Thank you for that. I think you and I have made an impact on the importance of mentorship because the next question is, do you have any advice for actually finding a mentor? And should that person be someone that knows me well? That's the question.
That's a great question. And it doesn't always have to be someone who knows you. I think sometimes it's better to have someone who doesn't know you. And sometimes it's okay to have someone who's not a female if you're a female, so the opposite gender.
Yeah.
Um, um, I think, sometimes that outside perspective of someone who has no clue who you are, it's more valuable because they're giving you an honest opinion. And how to find them, again, there's so many ways that you can, and again, even if you start your LinkedIn and you say, like, oh, I really,
Right.
people that you want to connect with, just send them a request and don't just click, I want to connect with you. Put something in I'm
Hmm.
a student at Johnson and Wales. I'm getting ready to graduate. I saw your LinkedIn profile. I really want to pursue a career in production. Would you be available to talk to me?
Right.
It can be simple as that. So, don't be afraid to reach out. I think that's
Hmm.
that's the biggest thing. If you know someone that maybe your parents knows or a faculty member, don't be afraid to reach out. Again, use
Yeah.
your voice.
Yeah. I actually totally agree with you about faculty members. And one of the other wonderful elements of a JWU education is that our faculty come with industry experience. They've been out of the classroom. They have rolled their sleeves up and they have been managers and professionals and a variety of fields. So when our students are thinking about finding a mentor, I think someone that knows them quite well could be a linchpin or an advocate in helping them to connect with an industry professional. So students, look to your faculty for some help with this.
Absolutely.
So I love the next question. Kamilah, how can I connect with you? I would love to connect with you and possibly get your advice on future jobs or internships. So what do you say, Kamilah?
Absolutely. Again, LinkedIn, I'm a LinkedIn guru. I use LinkedIn like this generation uses Instagram or TikTok or whatever. I don't even know how to use TikTok. So, but definitely you can reach out to me through LinkedIn. Color does offer student internships programs, especially hopefully when we come on the other side of COVID. We can get students back into Boston at our headquarters. So definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource if there's anything that I could help you with, or again, use my network to connect you with someone else. If there's someone that you see is in my network that you want to connect with, I'm happy to be a conduit for that. So
great. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. I have a question here from one of our graduates who will be finishing up this spring in 2021. And the student asks if you can speak to the state of the communications industry in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the students' plight is they're trying to decide, between going to grad school or to begin job hunting.
that's a great question. I think right now, some of the hot jobs with COVID, and I think it's going to just be sustainable for a long time, is anything digital. If you're looking for a job in the communication space, digital media, digital marketing, social media marketing, event planning all of a sudden has been turned on its head, and so many events now are all virtual. So
Yeah.
there's if you're looking in the market, I think COVID is challenged some way the job market, but also opened a lot more opportunities. People are watching television more on demand. Creative content's needed. So if you're creative, you could write a script, or you have a concept for some new show. I mean, Netflix, all of them are looking for content. So that's the gateway, I think, from the job opportunities. I think, evaluating going back to school, I think, that might take a little bit more thought, especially with colleges and universities trying to grapple with, hybrids or continuing online. But I don't want to dissuade anyone for pursuing more education. I'm a life learner. So I think that's important too. So don't rule out anything, keep everything open. I think, Sherry, did I lose you? Oh, no, you're back.
Yeah, was it me who got bumped out?
I was like, oh, some technology. And with technology too. So don't forget the technology jobs.
Of course, that had to happen, right? I mean, no doubt. It sounds like everyone, all the panelists that were in your green room with you got bumped out, but we're all back on now. You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can. You're good.
All right. So what I was saying, and I'm not sure if anybody heard me, is that we have so many questions. We're not going to have time to get to, unfortunately, any more of them. We're almost at the close of our program. And I know that you and I have talked about, we will consolidate those questions, and you have offered to answer them. So students who have asked, please know that you will get a reply back. It will take some time, but that's what we're going to do. Just want to thank our students for sharing the questions that they did, and certainly thank you, Kamilah, for your thoughtful and genuine perspectives. I think it is so valuable that our students got to meet and hear from you. And at this point, I'm going to turn the program back to Provost Billy O'Clair. Back to you, Billy.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Hello, Provost Billy.
Yeah, hi. Kamilah, as an educator for over 30 years, I am truly inspired by what you have shared with our students today. What a great opportunity for them to be able to hear you. I know they value what you've discussed. It's on their behalf that I am pleased to present you with a token of our appreciation and a certificate of recognition of your outstanding commitment and contribution to industry excellence.
Thank
So
you
hang
so
on
much.
1 second and you will see that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So we will be sure to get that to you. But we're
Wildcats. Thank you, Jay Woo.
Kamilah, Johnson & Wales looks forward to having you join several classes at the Providence campus next month. Sherry, along with Dr. Chris Westgate, professor and co-director of the Media and Communication Studies program in our College of Arts and Sciences, are making those arrangements with you. And I know you're already set up to do that. Although we wish you could join us in person, those visits will also be virtual, but a bit smaller in scope, and that will allow for more personal interaction between you and our students, which I know will be phenomenal. You'll be meeting with students in our Introduction to Media Production class, Sociology of Race class, and Media and Popular Cultures classes. So we truly look forward to that. By then, I'm sure the topics and themes that you presented today will have been further infused into our thinking. I know our students look forward to your visit, and as do our faculty and as well. And so this brings us to the end of our program. The hour flew. Thank you to everyone who has joined us. Our next VIP speaker series event will be held in 2021, and we look forward to sharing more details on that in the coming months. So thank you again, Kamilah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Johnson & Wales.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.